Hi, my name is Sammy. Just reviewing a Math 8 final exam. Mastering your foundations in middle school will really get you through high school with flying colors. So again, find this quotient. So dividing, when you're dividing, if you're dividing a positive by negative, that's always negative. As we said earlier, if opposite signs give you negative, the same signs, they give you positive. So it means positive and negative, or negative and positive will give you negative, but if negative and negative will give you positive, and positive will give you positive. So 64 divided by -8 will give you -8. Again, here, this is the same sign, so negative divided by negative is positive, and you don't have to write the positive there, you just write 2. Here, it's order of operations, so 21, that's plus 3 times -4. So the positive and negative here, they give you a negative, and 3 times 4 will give you 12. So 21 minus 12 is 9. Here, some students like to do it this way. I personally like to change this to 6. Positive and negative here, they give you minus 11. Negative, minus and negative here will give you plus 2. So 6 minus 11 is -5. -5 plus 2 is -3. So here you have square brackets. So that has to be done first. So this will give you a -5. These brackets around here, they don't mean anything. You could write them or you could do without them. So this here will be a -5 plus 8. Doing inside the brackets first, -5 plus 8 will give you +3. And now negative times positive gives you -15. Here we have a negative times a negative. This has to be done first before minusing. So -3 times -5, that's simply +15. And then minus -5. The method I like is to change this to 15 plus 5, because whenever you're minusing a negative, that becomes plus. That gives you 20. Here, -18 plus 6 divided by brackets -3 plus 4. Order of operations tells you to do division first. So you rewrite this again as -18 plus 6 divided by -3 is -2 plus 4. I'm going to rewrite this as -18 minus 2 plus 4 again, plus and minus, opposite sign, so just change them to -2. -18 minus 2 is -20. -20 plus 4 is -16. Fractions. When you multiply in a fraction by a whole number, always try to reduce the whole number with 11, the bottom, so you reduce the whole number with the denominator of the fraction. If they don't reduce, then what you need to do is just multiply the 2 into the top of the fraction, so that gives you 8/11. You don't multiply that on the bottom. 4 times 7/8. As I always tell my students, when you multiply in a whole number times a fraction, always see if the whole number could reduce with the bottom of the fraction. And yes, here it reduces because 4 goes into itself once, goes into 8 twice. Now 1 times 7/2 is just 7/2. If you wish to change that to a mixed number, so you go 7 divided by 2, it gives you 3, because 3 times 2 give you 6, and 1 is a remainder from 7, so 3 1/2. What's 5/6 of 18? That just means 5/6 times 18. Again, a whole number times a fraction, just reduce the bottom of the fraction. 6 goes into itself once with the whole number, and that gives you 3. And now you just have 3 times 5, which is 15. The one underneath doesn't do anything, so just 15 is good enough. 4/9 of 27. So 4/9 of 27, so it just means 4/9 times 27. Again, the same thing. If the whole number could reduce with the fraction, always do so. So 9 goes into itself once, goes into 27. 3 times 4 times 3 is 12. You have 1 on the bottom, it doesn't do anything. How about here, 1/3 of 1/4? How many small squares in this rectangle should be shaded to represent 1/3 of 1/4? So let's find out 1/3, what's 1/3 of 1/4 is. 1/3 of 1/4 just means you multiply the 1/3 and the 1/4. since you cannot reduce diagonally, then you just multiply the tops together. 3 times 4 is 12. Now, how many squares do we have here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 times 6 is 24. So we have 24 squares here. To find out how many you got to shade, you multiply this 112 by the number of squares in there. So 24 times 12. Again, multiplying a whole number by a fraction. If you could reduce the bottom of the fraction with the whole number, do so. So that gives me 1. 12 goes into 24 twice. 1 times 2 is 2. So you just shade 2 squares. Okay. So whenever they ask you 3/8 of 4/9, off means multiplying. So you just go 3/8 times 4/9. Now, if you could reduce within, do. If you could reduce diagonally, do before you multiply tops and bottoms. Highly recommended that you don't just multiply tops and multiply bottoms. Always reduce diagonally first, or reduce within, so your numbers get smaller. So 4 goes into itself once, goes into 8 twice. 3 goes into itself once. 3 goes into 9 3 times. Now tops, you have 1 times 1. Bottoms, you have 2 times 3. That's 1/6. Again, the same thing. I'm just gonna take it from here. That's multiplying. So if I could reduce within, I reduce. If I can't, I look at diagonally. 5 and 3 you can't, but 2 and 6 definitely you could do. 2 goes into itself once, goes into 6 3 times. Now multiply tops together. 5 times 1 is 1. Multiply bottoms together. 3 times 3 is 9. So that gives you 1/9. Find the common factor of 9 and 18. So the common factors of 9 and 18 is basically means the number that goes into both the 9 and the 18th. The 9 and the 18, that's basically the common factor here is 9, because 9 goes into itself once, goes into 18 twice. Write 3 4/5 as an improper fraction. So to do so, you take the 3, multiply this way, and you get 15. And then you add the 15 to the 4, keeping in mind that you write the bottom the same way, or the denominator the same way. So 3 times 5 is 15. 15 plus 4 is 19. So it's 19/15. Right, as a mixed number. So 39/5. What you do, you find out how many times does 5 go into 39. Of course, it's not going to go into it evenly. So 7 times 5 is 35. And 8 times 5 is 40, so you cannot do that. So 7 times 5 is 35. You know there's 4 remaining from 39, and that's what you write as multiplying. Every time you want to multiply, you have to change to improper fraction. If it's adding, you don't have to, or subtracting. But if you're multiplying or dividing, you have to change to improper fraction. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 7/2. Times, again, 3 on the bottom here. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. That's 10. Now we look if we could reduce within. We can't. If we could reduce diagonally, yes. 2 goes into itself once, goes into 10 5 times. 7 times 5 is 35/3. If you want to express this as a mixed number, 35 divided by 3 is 11. 11 times 3 is 33. So you know there's a remainder of 2 from 35. So that's what you write as a fraction, 11 2/3. Dividing, change to multiplication, it's 6 times 4/2, which equals, I don't write it over 1. If you wish to do so, do so. Definitely here, when you could just go, this is 6 times, because 4/2 it could be reduced, because you remember fractions is the same as division. So if you have 4/2 is the same as 4 divided by 2. So that gives me 2. 6 times 2 is 12. Find this quotient. Here we have to write the 3/1. So now we have 4/5 times, you flip this, every time you're dividing, you change the multiplication, you flip the divisor. Now, can we reduce? We don't know we can't. Can we reduce diagonally? We can't. Now you could just multiply tops together and bottoms together, and you'll get 4/15. This one would be 5/3 times 7/15. We can reduce the 5, it goes into itself once, it goes into 15 3 times. Cannot reduce anymore, so 1 times 7 is 7. 3 times 3 is 9. I cannot emphasize enough that reduce before you multiply tops and bottoms. Reduce before you multiply tops and bottoms. Underline that sentence. It's very important as you get ahead into high school and so on. You'll have difficulties if you're not reducing fractions right away. So now 1/2 times flip 10/9. Reduce, 2 goes into itself once, goes into 10 5 times. Now you cannot reduce any further. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 9 on the bottom just gives you 9. Dividing, we have to change to improper fraction. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5, so that makes it 5/2 times, and we have to flip this, so that's 7/1. I'm just going to write 7. You cannot reduce, so you just multiply the whole number to the top, only 35, and you have 2 underneath. If you wish to change it to improper fraction, so 17 goes into 17 times 2 gives you 34, and therefore there's 1 as a remainder. So it's 1/2, 17 and 1/2. Here you have to change from proper fraction. 1 times 5 is 5 plus 1 is 6, so that makes it 6/5 divided by 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5, so that makes it 5/2. We need to change the multiplication times 2/5. Can you reduce diagonally, or we don't know we can't, so therefore we just multiply tops together and bottoms together, and we get 12/25. So we'll continue. Now here, evaluate. Again, division has to be done before subtraction. This is order of operations, so we'll carry the 5/6, and then we have minus, and we'll have to rewrite 4/9. Change that to times 3/2, or 3/2, sorry. 2 goes into itself once, goes into 4 twice. 3 goes into itself once, goes into 9 3 times. So therefore, this will give me 5/6 minus 2/3. The way I do common denominator, I write my common denominator first. Now I go my common denominator, 6 divided by this denominator. 6 divided by 6 gives me 1. The 1 that I get, I multiply it to the 5. It gives me 5. Then minus 6 divided by 3 gives me 2. I take the 2, multiply it into the 2 on top. So that gives me 4. And the answer here is 1/6. Now here, multiplication has to be done first. And I could just work from here. So I could reduce. The 4 goes into itself once. It goes into 8 twice. Now I have 2/3 plus, that's 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 5 is 5. So 2/3 times 6/5. Common denominator between 3 and 5 is 15. Again, different way of doing common denominator. If you haven't seen it, get used to it. It's a pretty good method. 15 divided by 3 is 5. The 5 that you get, you multiply it into the 2, you get 10. And you write your plus there. 15 divided by 5 gives you 3. 3 times 6 gives you 18. That gives me 28/15. If you want to change it into mixed number, 15 goes in 28 only once with a 13 as a remainder. And it's 13/15. Now this is an incomplete net for triangular prism. What shapes do you add to complete this net? So now triangular prism looks exactly like this. So you know you need 1 more triangle, and you need 2 more squares or rectangles. It doesn't matter. So 2 squares, 1 triangle. What shape do you need to make a hexagonal pyramid? Well, hexa means 6, so therefore you need 6 triangles. And hexagon. 1 hexagon. Draw the net shape. So here you have basically a square on the bottom, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4 triangles. So you just put triangle here, triangle there, triangle here, triangle there, and that's your net of this object right here. Surface area, find the surface area of this right rectangular prism. Surface area means anything that you could touch on that shape, you have to find the area of. And if you count here, so let's look at this shape here. So 9 by 6 by 7. So if we want to find the area of this right here, so you see this here, it's 7 by 9 because the length of this is 9. So this is 7 times 9. We want to call it area 1 maybe, times 2. Why multiply by 2? Because we have the front and the back here. So if you look at right here, it's also the same area as this. So 7 times 9 times 2. So that's 163 times 2. Sorry, that's 63 times 2. So that gives you 126. And area 2 is the top and the bottom, and that they are the same. So it is, the bottom is 7 times 6. Again, we have to multiply that by 2 because we have the top and the bottom, and therefore 7 times 6 is 42 times 2. Sorry, that's times 2. 42 times 2 is 84. Now area 3 is the sides. You know, the sides, this is 9 by 6 and you have 2 sides. So it's 9 times 6 times 2, which equals 9 times 6 is 54, and times 2, that gives you 108. So now you add all of these, the surface area is 318 units square. That's what it is. Calculate the area of the triangular faces of this right triangular prism. So just the triangular face. Now the area of a triangle, this means triangle right here, equals base times height divided by 2. Over 2 means divided by 2. Now the base of the triangle is 6. The height is right here. That's 90 degrees right there, indicates this is the exact height of the triangle. So 6 times 6 and divide by 2. Now since we have 2 triangles, I'm going to multiply by 2 as well. And when you have a whole number multiplied into a fraction, you could just cancel these 2's here, and you get 36 as the area of the 2 triangular faces of this right triangular prism. So it's 36 units square. So find the volume. So the volume of a rectangular prism, width times length times height, and therefore the width here is 9, the length is 11, times the height, which is 6. So 6 times 11 times 9 equals 594. Now find the surface area of this cylinder. So the surface area for a cylinder is 2 pi RH plus 2 pi R squared. So the height here, H is the height, is 17, and R is the radius. So H is the height and R is the radius. And then you just plug it in, you know, so 2 pi times the radius, which is 8, times h, which is the height is 17, plus 2 pi, and it's the radius squared, so that's 8 squared. And now, honestly, just put that into your calculator. There's a pi button in your calculator. Every calculator is different, so you could just look and find it. If you cannot see it, just throw 3.14 for the for pi. So I'm just gonna do this really quick. And this will give you 1,256.6 to the 10th of a decimal. If you putting this into your calculator, make sure you put brackets around here, and then you go 2 times pi times 8 times 17, close the bracket, and then you write a plus, and then you open another bracket, and you go 2 times pi times 8 squared. There's a square button on your calculator, and close the brackets. This way, your calculator will know the order of operations. So if you throw it in just without putting this brackets, some calculators will give you the right answers, and some wouldn't. Okay. The volume of a cylinder, V equals 2 pi r squared h, which means 2 pi times the radius squared, which is 6 squared, times h, which is 8. And that's straight plug into your calculator. So 2 times pi times 6 squared times 8, and that gives you 1,809 to the nearest 10. So you round off the 5 to a 6 because it's 0.55, and that's cubic units. So we don't know what units they're using. Now decimal, this is write a decimal, write a percentage as a decimal. To write a percentage as a decimal, it's that one here. You move the decimal 1, 2 to the left. So that gives you 0.01. Just always assume that if you have 1, there's a decimal right there. You move it 2 times to the left, and that will give you 0.01. Or it's simply on your calculator 1 divided by 100, and that will still give you 0.01. So either or, if you like to assume there's a decimal there and then just move it twice to the left, or just take to write a percentage as a decimal, just take that number divided by 100, and that will give you the answer as well. So your choice of doing that. All right, 2/5 as a percent. So 2/5 as a percent, you do 2 divided by 5. And if you do 2 divided by 5, that gives you 0.4. If you want to convert a decimal to a percentage, you multiply by 100. So again, if you changing a percentage to a decimal, you divide by 100. If you changing a decimal to a percentage, you multiply by 100. So that gives me 40%. It's like if you have a test and you got 30 out of 40, and you want to find out what your percentage is, you divide the 30 by 40. Remember, when we have a fraction like that with zeros at the end, you could cancel the zeros, and 3 divided by 4 gives you 0.75. Multiply that by 100, it gives you 75%. Now write 0.24 as a percent. Again, they gave it to you in fraction, you change it to a decimal, then you multiply it by 100. Here, they already gave it to you into a decimal, which is 0.24. When you're changing a decimal to percentage, you just multiply it by 100, and that gives you 24%. When you multiply any decimal by 100, because that if you have 2 zeros here, you move the decimal 2 to the right. If you multiply by 10,000, you move the decimal 4 times to the right because you have 4 zeros. But here, since we're dealing with decimals, we're just talking about hundreds. All right, 165% as a decimal. Again, think the decimal is right there, and you move it 2 to the left, so that gives you 1.65. Or simply take the 165 divided by 100, and that will give you 1.65. Either or works, so it's your choice. Whatever method you like, just go ahead and do it. So here, find the percent increase from 210 to 370. So what you need to do, just go 370 minus 210. That gives you 160. Now you take the 160 divided by 210. and multiply it by 100, that give you what increase is the 160 from 210. So, or the increase from 210 to 370. So that is 110 divided by 210 times 100. That gives you 60. Sorry, that gives you 76.2 to the nearest 10. So 76.2%. Find the percent decrease from 230 to 130. So now you go 230 minus 130, and that gives you 100. Now you take the 100 divided by 230 and multiply by 100. And that gives you 56.5%. The sales taxes of a province are 15%. How much tax do you pay on a 43.8 or $43.80 purchase? Now, if you know you're paying 15% tax and you want to know how much tax you're paying, you change that 15% to a decimal, and that will give you 15 divided by 100 will give you 0.15. Multiply that to the 43.80, and that will give you 0.15 times 43.80 cents equals, so you'll be paying $6.57. A lot of tax. The sales taxes are 14%. Find the total cost for a video game with a list price of $82. So here they're not asking you only for the tax, they're asking you the total price. So here, if they ask you just for the tax, all you need to do is just find the tax. But if they ask you for the total price or the total cost, you find out what the tax is and add it to the price of the item. So therefore, we go change the 14% to a decimal. That will be 0.14 times 82, and that will give me $11.48. Now you go 82 plus $11.48, and that will give you $93.48 in total. So yes, again, just a correction for this, it's 43.5%. So write the part to whole number ratio 11 to 16 as a percent. That's simply just 11 divided by 16 times 100, which gives you 68.75%. Now, Petra sold 24 adult tickets, 23 student tickets, and 8 child tickets for the school concert. What's the ratio of student tickets to a total number of tickets? So student tickets is 23. The whole, that's 23 plus 8, that's 31. 31 plus 24, 55. So it's 23 to 55. The ratio 3. Okay, so something to 35 is the same as 4 to 5. So if you want to find out what this number is, what you do, you find out what this second number of the ratio here, how did the 35 become 5, or it's best to go backwards. So you do this and you go, how did a 5 become 35 there? So definitely multiplying by 7. So you take the 4, also multiply it by 7. to know what to write here. And 4 times 7 is 28. So your answer is 28. So 14 to something is the same as 7 to 5. So 14 to something is the same as 7 to 5. So you know what? If I go this way, I know 7 times 2 gives me 14. So I do the same thing here. I go 5 times 2 will give me 10. So 14 to 10 is the same as 7 to 5. Write the ratio 12, 21, and 16, 12 to 21, sorry, 12 to 20 to 16 in simplest form. So you look at what number do all these numbers reduce by, and it's 4. So you divide everything by 4. That gives you 3 to 5 to 4. So that's reduced in simplest forms. Write the ratio 3 to 21 with first term as 1. So 3 to 21 to be 1 to something. So therefore, you know, to go from 3 and get 1, you divide by the 3, you divide it by 3. So you do the same thing to the 21, divided by 3 as well. And you get 7. So that's 1 to 7. Ratio 18 to 6 with second term is 1. So 18 to 6. And the second term is 1. So now you look at 6. How did it become 1? You divide it by 6. So they do the same thing to the 18. Divide by 6 as well. And that gives you 3. So the answer is 3 to 1. Find the value of the variable. So 9 to 8 is the same as p to 72. You know, you multiplied 8 by 9 to get 72. So you do the same thing to the 9 to get p. So 9 times 9 gives you p. Since this is what you did, you multiplied by 9 to get here. So p would be 9 times 9 is 81. Find the value of f. So 6 to f is the same as 4 to 20. Now it's not as easy. So to find out what happened here, you go 4 became 6. What did you multiply by? So you know 4 times something gives you 6. To find out 4 times what gives you 6. Now just divide both sides by 4. So that thing that you're trying to find, 6 and 4 reduces to 3 halves. So 4 times 3 halves, that would give you 6. So you take the 20 as well and multiply it by the same thing by 3 halves. And you know, when you multiply a whole number by a fraction, you just reduce the bottom of the fraction with the whole number. That gives you 10. 10 times 3 is 30. So f equals 30. That's what it is. I think we'll leave it here for today. Next time, I'll carry on from 80. I'm anxious to get to algebra because that's something that you really need to know for next year. Make sure, you know, you don't finish grade 8 without understanding a lot of this stuff. It's the foundations, you know, that you need to know before you go to high school. Make sure you master your fractions and master your algebra. Integers, know how to add and subtract integers, and divide and multiply. Order of operations, to handle the math, the physics, the chemistry that are gonna come at you in high school. So if you wanna make your life easier, definitely, if you're a bit shaky on this, make sure you do the work and understand this really well, so you'll have an easy time in high school. Thanks for watching. And yes, if you like my videos, please put a like, a comment, and subscribe. Also share with others so they could benefit. See you next time. Stay tuned for my next video. Bye-bye.